investors, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to workshop session Sustainability Reporting for Companies. My name is Jessica Hanafi, and it's my pleasure to be your lead trainer for today's workshop. This session will be conducted in English. For your convenience, interpretation tools are available at the desk near the entrance of the ballroom, or you may ask our staff in this room. As we prepare to start the event, we kindly request you to switch your mobile phones to silent mode to ensure a smooth progression of the program. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay, a bit about the event, about Jakarta Investment Forum. Jakarta Investment Forum, or JIF, is an annual investment forum hosted by the Jakarta Capital City Government to promote potential projects owned by the Jakarta Professional Government to potential domestic and foreign investors. This year, JIF will be a series of the mayors and governors meeting of the Asian capital 2023 with strong determination to promote Jakarta as an investment-friendly city as well as a city of collaboration. JIF will allow more investment opportunities and collaboration between the government, private sectors, and other business entities by providing business and investment consultation as well as facilitating and organizing business matchmaking with project owners. Now, about the workshop session, today we will provide a concise overview of sustainability reporting in the context of Indonesia and ASEAN. It highlights the current trend in sustainability reporting and delves into the regulatory and policy developments shaping this landscape. The workshop explores the emergence of various ESG ratings that evaluate the authenticity of ESG disclosures and aims to uncover the relationship between the environmental, social, and governance disclosure, ESG, and the ratings and rankings. By doing so, it identifies key factors that directors in Indonesia should be aware and prioritize, includes the kind of governance, activities, measures, and communication required to drive meaningful contribution to sustainable development, and ultimately what is needed to make impactful sustainable contributions while ensuring credibility and transparency in their sustainability efforts. So this session is a collaboration between Eco-Business and Lifecycle Indonesia. So Eco-Business is a media and intelligence platform that is focused on sustainable development and ESG performance, headquartered in Singapore, with presence in Malaysia, Philippines, India, Indonesia, and China, and publish news and policies development globally from a sustainability-focused lens and work with partners. While Lifecycle Indonesia Sustainability Indonesia, Lifecycle Indonesia, that's is my firm. It's a sustainability consulting firm. We focus on impact measurement, environmental impact, social impact, and to target what needs to be disclosed in our activities as well. Thank you. So I start next. Oops, sorry, back. So today's talk is about sustainability reporting. My name is Jessica Hanafi, and as part of Lifecycle Indonesia, I'm also a working group member for the ISO. We develop standards, obviously, you know, the ISO, and I work for environmental labeling, lifecycle assessment, GHG management, circular economy, and I'm also the chairwoman of Pro-LCA, Indonesian Association of Lifecycle Assessment and Sustainability Professionals. So, Bapak Ibu, when we talk about sustainability, sometimes we don't understand what is sustainability, or sometimes it's just a jargon. So when we talk about sustainable development, we know the the terms or the definition, development that needs the present without compromising the future. But what is really about sustainable development? Yeah, it's a bit scary, but it's about whether our Earth is still livable. It's about apocalypse. Yeah, scary, yeah, apocalypse. But what we mean by sustainability is about protecting human health, ecosystem, and resources. It goes down to these 17 sustainable development goals that the UN has, and everybody understand what it is. But in the most basic point is to protect these 3 areas of our life: human health, ecosystem, and resources. Because missing just one aspect, that's it. We are no longer be able to stay in this world. Okay. So, for example, human health. The past 3 years, we've overcome the pandemic. It's behind us, and we were wondering what happened on those 3 years. Yeah, suddenly just gone. But at that time, like we were questioning, are we able to survive from this? Yeah, like the economics suddenly crumbles. For some sectors, they cannot survive. Some companies cannot survive. It's about sustainability. At the end, it's our resilience. Are we strong enough? Are we resilient enough? Are we sustainable enough in that sense? With the ecosystem, sometimes we're also wondering, ecosystem, where is it? Yeah, maybe not so important. How is it connected to us? Okay. Bapak Ibu, I'm sure you watch movies. One of the movies that I like to quote for ecosystem is Interstellar. Yeah, in the movie of Interstellar, the land cannot grow crops anymore. No more crops. So they have to migrate somewhere. Otherwise, they cannot live in that area. Another movie was, I forgot, Mr. Finn. Yeah, Tom Hanks, I remember. There was a hole in the ozone, and they cannot go out. They cannot go out, otherwise they got burned. Yeah, and what happened is the plants got burned, the animals got burned. So no more food. No food, no life. Yeah, simple as that. Resources also. Yeah, resources. I like to quote movies. Yeah, movies. The movies is what's the blue guy? Avatar. Yeah, Avatar. In Avatar, they don't have any energy. So they're looking for this beautiful energy outside the space. Yeah, we cannot go there. Yeah, only selected people can go there. Yeah, very, very rich people. But majority gone. So that means that's the apocalypse. We don't want this to happen. Okay, so that's why if you've seen, Bapak Ibu, if you've seen like you are asked by the investors or these ratings or whatever framework asking for, what is your climate scenario? Yeah, what does it mean, the climate scenario? Yeah, the climate scenario is actually asking, yeah, if the temperature is up for 2 degrees, whether we can still plant or not. Does the vegetable survive or not if 2 degrees? If 4 degrees, what happened? Salads are all burned. Yeah, cannot eat salads anymore. They're all gonna be burned unless you go inside and you might have to make a conditioned climate for the vegetables and everything. So that is the real question. When it is up for 2 degrees and what is up for 4 degrees, what is your risk assessment? How do you survive? Your business survive, of course, and the world also survives. So what we're trying to do with the sustainable development and everything, all the efforts, is actually to prevent us from having the apocalypse in a scientific way. Yeah, maybe for us who are religious, we have our own apocalypse. Yeah, but this is the way the scientific mind try to unravel, preventing us so we don't, no doom. But apart from the energy that I'm talking about here, we are also talking about the very simple basic resources, which is water. Yeah, Indonesia is surrounded by water. Yeah, everybody like, oh, of course we have abundance of water. Can we drink them? Can you go to the river, Kali Ciliwung, and then you drink them? I don't think so. Yeah, during the I think everybody here is old enough. I remember during 2000, early 2000, we have 5 years, I don't know what they call it, yeah, 5 yearly flood, 5 yearly flood, 1992, 1997, 2001. I was there in 2001. I was trapped inside my house in 2001. It was we were trapped 2 weeks inside the house. We only stay on the second level. The first level is just all water. Yucky water, yeah. You don't want to go into the water, rather let alone drink the water. So at that time or now, if I go back to that time, we don't want to drink those water. Those water are not drinkable. So we have to think about whether our water is safe as well or not. Yeah, if you have a chance to look at the map of Java, Pulau Jawa, it's all red. Yeah, for the water, either it's dirty water or water scarcity. So maybe some of you have operations in Central Java or in East Java. You know that the water there is also very scarce. So you cannot work with you cannot work with the water in there. So you have to buy water. So when you buy, extra cost. Yeah. So these are the sustainability issues. It is even more real than what we imagine. Because when we look at the news, sustainability and everything, it's like, oh, so far not my business lah. Yeah. But actually it is within our daily life. So having that thought with sustainability, being sustainable is relevant. So we have companies have their commitments, and I'm sure all of you are here also have your commitment in the company, how we can do better. Because Bapak Ibu, sustainable development is what we call gotong royong. Yeah. We cannot do it alone. If you do it alone, nothing will happen. So this is when the whole world come together with one purpose to fix whatever we have maybe caused to destruct or to destroy. So these are some initiatives that people are doing. Can we do pointer in here or not? Yeah. This one, no pointer. Yeah. Okay. So in here, we have companies with sustainability-linked bond, investment, recycled bottle, or even sorting the waste. This picture here on the right side, I took it from Australia, but I think we also have it in here for the sorting of waste. But sometimes we say like, hey, sorting waste so simple. I don't want to do it. It's too hard at home. Only the mother does the sorting, maybe, yeah, or even not, yeah. But actually, it's very impactful. Okay, because we have resource recovery there. Simple, yeah, it's so simple. Let's say you have your packaging, yeah, you have your online shopping. You unwrap all the boxes; they are all recyclable, yeah. But if you mix it with your soto, yeah, you pour soto over the cardboard boxes, that's it. It's no longer recyclable. Very simple. Your plastic bottle, after you drink your juice in there and you throw it straight away, it's hard for the recyclers to wash, but easy for you to rinse and then separate it. Why? Because all of that are money, circular economy. Yeah, if you do it in your office, it's big, right? All the food waste, it can go to compost. You can use it for your own fertilizer. The paper cardboard goes to the recycler. Somebody will make money of it, or even you can make money of it. That will bring back the carbon. The plastic also likewise. So simple, but nobody does it. Yeah. The reason is always the same. Somebody will mix it again at the back, and then wah, no lah, it's useless activity. That is always our excuse. Not only us in this room, but everybody in this world. Everybody in this world. Somebody's going to mix it. But no, actually not. You know, at the back, especially in the office, in your factory, there will be third party who will collect those things. They will be very grateful because it's already sorted out. They don't have to play with the rubbish and then make, very simple. What I'm telling you, this is just a simple thing to do, but very impactful. Now, what is the driver to sustainable development? We have sustainability is always linked with cost. Yeah, everybody here, maybe some of you or most of you are from the financial aspect, financial sector. Who are here from the financial sector? Maybe, or maybe in your office, but you are in the financial sector, investment or no? Maybe from manufacturing. Manufacturing, yes, okay. All right. Others? Bapak, in front, Pak. Where you from, Pak? Waste management. Ibu also together? Okay. From the second row, Pak. Maybe can share a bit. Huh? Property, okay. Nah, online ya, Pak. Tadi waste management, Pak. Maybe Bapak manufacturing ya? Ibu? What? Factory, okay. Over there, Bapak? Industrial estate, fantastic. Online, Pak. Ibu? Okay. Also, together? Alright. At the back, Bapak? Property. Property. Manufacturing. Food business, fantastic. Consultant ya? Ibu? Okay. So, sometimes or most of the time people like, oh, sustainability is cost. I'm going to, cost me something. This is going to cost me something. But there are now drivers to or benefit of being sustainable. First of all, it is driven by environmentally conscious society, of course. Whether it is your own society, your NGO, or your investors. My investors say that I have to have sustainability report. What is this about? What do I need to report? That's what we're going to say. We're going to discuss. And then government regulation. There's government regulation, POJK and everything. Competitive advantage. How can you tap if you're being sustainable? Can you tap the global market? Can you tap, again, the environmental conscious society? And also nowadays, now we are in the Jakarta Investment Forum. There are green bonds, green equity funds, green financial schemes. But what the green funds asking is, what is your impact? So when you do a sustainability report, when you disclose something, you have to show them what is your impactful activities. If you say like, oh, I do charity, I distribute 10 or 100 boxes of food to the kids. Okay, good. But what is the impact? Okay, the kids are full today. Tomorrow? No. Okay? So we need to have something tangible. We need something that will last forever. Yeah? Changing the future. I talked to one of, once they give education to disabled children. Yeah, so the children can be, can have a future, let's say. Or we help, a company help the farmers, yeah? Not just giving them something, not just giving them, okay, give you this tool, or give you this equipment, or give you this machine, and then after that they sell the machine, and then, or they don't use the machine anymore. But we have to give them something that it will last forever. Knowledge. Understanding that if they can improve their knowledge, they can improve their productivity, understanding, and then they can make money. So in the end, whenever you give something, say charity or whatever, it should give back or it should impact to the livelihood of the people. Yeah, if you have a lot of employee, what is your impact to the employee? Improvement, livelihood. It's all go to livelihood lah. Ujung-ujungnya duit. Okay, there should be duit at the back. Alright, the community, they should improve their life. If it is an industrial estate, what do you provide to the industry? It's a room for collaboration, room for management, make people easy access and everything. So there should be, those are the things that we need to disclose, and the disclosure must have quantity, quantifiable. Because if we just talk only, no measurement, oh I do good, how good, very good, no measurement, you cannot quantify or you cannot invest. So in all of your reporting, I believe everybody here are interested to do reportings, that's why you are here. Yeah, you need to showcase that in the reports. Okay, so I seen many reports that are just saying, oh, I have a lot of things, but when I look at carefully, what is it? What is the impact? Why are you not telling the impact? So impact is very important. Impact to the stakeholder and impact to everyone. So that is what the green fundings are looking for, the impact as well. So we have a lot of government regulation here, OJK, Proper, SGX, Bursa Malaysia, all of these are intertwined. Why do I have Proper in here? Yeah, we from the financial sector, today we are coming from the financial sector, yeah, but actually operations are answering to the bottom as well, to the operations, yeah, the environmental impact, how to be better. So before, in the maybe 10 years ago, maybe when a company, in the company you want to improve something, you want to purchase something, equipment to improve the productivity, they got a problem with the budget. I don't have any budget. Yeah, but now with the POJK or the sustainability reporting, there are budgets in there. So this is a matchmaking condition. There's a budget here, want to invest in green activities, green production. This is in the production, I want to be more efficient, I need equipment. I want to be more productive, I need equipment. So this is a matchmaking. So now the companies don't have any more reasons not to do it. So there is various paths of sustainability. Can be from communication, let's say sustainability reporting, can also be from the operation. First, we have a perspective. We imagine like how, what is the life cycle of the product we can measure, life cycle assessment. We have resource efficiency and also eco-label. So what is this? What does it mean? So most of the time, when we approach company and when we say like, hey, you have to be sustainable, they say, oh, no, I don't want, it's gonna be costly. And then I say, do you want to be efficient or not? Oh yes, we are always looking for how to be efficient. So many times in Indonesia and especially in many parts of the world, actually, we come also from the bottom here, resource efficiency. We have a lot of efficiency efforts, and then we communicate. But many times we don't know how to quantify it. So that's why we measure with life cycle assessment. Yeah. So what is sustainability reporting? Yeah. Is it the same as ESG reporting? Yes, it is the same, just different name. Okay. So it's the same. ESG reporting, environmental, social, governance. In the sustainability, there is governance inside it as well, because governance is very important. When your boss or your directors or your see something, yeah, CEO, COO saying that, hey, we have a target, then everything will fall down. Everybody will follow. But what I've seen as well in some of the companies, when the the effort coming from, let's say, middle management, the middle management got trapped. Yeah, the middle management got trapped. Like, I have to do this report, but the management doesn't give me any commitment. Yeah, don't have any buy-in. So I have to work on the buy-in for the management so I can even collect the data. Otherwise, what happened in the sustainability reporting? Yeah, I don't know if any of you already done your sustainability report. Hands up, maybe. Nobody done sustainability report? First time reporter? Most of you first time reporter? Okay. The saddest thing, I would say, the saddest thing in sustainability reporting is whoever got the job as the PIC of sustainable reporting is like, they come and like, Bu, can I have data, Bu? No, I'm busy. I have a lot of things to do. I don't want to give you data. Later, yeah, okay, yeah. There one, Pak, data, Pak, from different department. Okay? In ESG reporting, in sustainability reporting, you have to collect data from finance, HR, environment, internal audit, everyone, procurement, everyone. But then they don't have commitment. Nobody tell them anything. The governance is not there. So they say like, later, not my KPI, your KPI, not mine. I don't care. Yeah. So in the past, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, everybody was like minta-minta, okay, mengais-ngais data. I've been there, sitting in the meeting, and there was a lady there, and it's like, my turn is up or not? I have to go back. So it's not nice, yeah. So now in here with the sustainable reporting, it's everybody's business, everybody's effort. So that's why governance is required. So what is actually sustainability reporting? It is a process of reporting, which starts an organization determine the material topic first, yeah, based on the most significant impact, results in organization publicly reporting information about this impact. The key word is material topics, most significant impact. Yeah, in the financial accounting, yeah, people are aware with material. Material is the most important thing. Yeah, so material. But sometimes if we are not from financial background, maybe we think material is resources, yeah, bahan, not material. Material important in here. So important topics related to the organization. What is the super critical information there? Based on EcoVadis, companies communicate the performance and impact on wide range of sustainability topics spanning from environmental, social, governance parameters. Enable company to be more transparent about the risks and opportunities. Because when we look at all of these aspects of sustainability, environmental, social, and governance, we can identify what is the risk. When we look at the risk, actually, it's good to have a life cycle perspective of a product. Yeah, a wide cradle to grave. For example, I'll give you an example. Plastic, our classic enemy. Yeah, plastic. When it was originally made, yeah, plastic is actually a byproduct. Yeah, a utilization of byproduct from the oil and gas industry. So they make this plastic, wonderful material. But at that time, they didn't think about what will happen at the end of life of the plastic. Turn out, doesn't go, it really stays there, forever and ever. So that become a problem for us. So when we try to identify, okay, there's a problem at the end, it cannot disintegrate. So we have to find out how it can be useful. So for all of our activities, we have to find out what is the life cycle perspective. Paper, yeah, let's trace, yeah, paper. Paper come from wood, become pulp, and then become paper, and then we use it. And if we send it to somebody else to recycle it, it goes back become paper again. But if we throw it away to the landfill, in the landfill it will cause emission. Greenhouse gas emission goes to the world and then make global warming potential. However, if we recycle it, so that means what happened? We avoid having the forest cut down. Yeah, even though it's a sustainable forest and so on, but we remove one step and then it goes circle like that. So we identify the risks and opportunities and provide stakeholders insight what is the performance beyond the timeline. In POJK, here is the definition. Yeah, the report to the public. Report to the public about the economic, financial, social, and so on. So sometimes there are questions like this: who actually checks? Yeah, who actually checks whether our report is correct or not? There are some external assurance, for example, do audits, but you cannot audit everything, right? You probably have audit something in some parts. So the check is actually done by the stakeholder. For example, you say that, oh, we give good benefits to our employee. Oh, benefits, very nice benefits. But you're inside the company, you're the employee, and say like, I don't receive any benefit. Oh, this company is lying. I don't like to work in a company who's lying. Yeah. So your peers is your judge. So if you say like, oh, we give charity to the community and everything, and the community say like, never receive. Just one time, 2 days activity, and then that's it. But they put it, very big in the newspaper and everything that they have this thing going on. But the community is like, I don't think so. Yeah. So your peers is your judge. So that's why it's important for us to be transparent and to be true. Of course, transparency has its own sort. So in sustainability reporting, what is the value? When you have set a goal, let's say a governance there. Okay, we are committed to here to here. That is setting the vision and strategy for the whole company. Yeah, and it will track your performance, it will track your measurement. Let's say your greenhouse gas emission or your energy consumption, your water consumption, your training hours for the employee, those are performance for the internal benefits. And you can manage risk, and definitely you can motivate employees. Employees are motivated to do more and more and more, but better and better. And then externally also builds reputation, trust, attract capital, engage with stakeholders, and also comply with regulatory requirements. So these are the trends of sustainability reporting in Indonesia and all in ASEAN. Sustainability reporting has evolved many years, even more than a decade, more than 10 years. You can Google, sustainability reports are always publicly available. And starting in 2017, started to have banks, financial institution, and also listed companies to report. And Asia Pacific is actually at the forefront of sustainability report. 89% of the business are undertaking sustainability reporting. And actually, when you look at the sustainability reporting, you can do a benchmark for your industry. Go find similar industry, similar companies, your competitors, and you can see what they do, what you can try to follow, and then see their numbers as well, so you can benchmark. So Malaysia and Singapore currently leading in sustainability reporting, where 99% large companies in Malaysia and Singapore publish sustainability reports, also in Indonesia actually. And most of the companies are using Global Reporting Initiative or GRI framework. Yeah. Now this is a number across 6 countries. There was a study conducted by GRI and the National University of Singapore back in 2022, and they come up with this 100 largest companies in the 6 countries, and only like around 420 companies publicly disclose about climate-related matters. So even though we have a lot of sustainability aspects, not everybody talking about climate. So these are the frameworks for climates, TCFD, Science-Based Target, Greenhouse Gas Protocol, CDP, and so on. And you can go and have a look at what kind of requirements in there. But most importantly, in this climate or ESG disclosures is about governance. What is your commitment? What is your policy? A lot of companies asking us, as we help them with the sustainability reporting, hey, we cannot comply with this kind of ratings or frameworks. We want to achieve those ratings. What do we do about it? So actually, it's not the fault of the reporting. Sometimes it's the fault of there is no activity that you can report. So you have to change the way you do things first, then you can report. You cannot go back report some things that not existed. So these are the 6 countries, the trend across ASEAN. 90-something% Indonesia follows the GRI. There are also IRRC, SASB, SDGs, TCFD. All of these are the frameworks across ASEAN companies. So even though the GRI provides a comprehensive disclosures that you can choose according to your material topics, but then the other ratings, the other frameworks actually can be more specifics. So these are the regulatory landscape in ASEAN, and then comparison of the regulation. So in Indonesia is by OJK, in Malaysia by Bursa Malaysia, Singapore Stock Exchange, Philippines by the SEC Philippines, and Thailand is also SEC Thailand, and in Vietnam is Ministry of Finance. So you can see in Indonesia actually started in 2017, but it's for the financial sectors, but for the publicly listed companies it started in 2021. Some companies, even they are not publicly listed, they also publish sustainability report, but usually that is for their lenders or their investors specifically. So you can sometimes find that kind of reports as well. As you can see, we are still on track, not so behind. In Indonesia, in Singapore, it started from 2017. So what are the benefits for those who have started earlier? Yeah. For those who have started earlier, they become, more mature. They know already what to do. Probably they already have governance and things like that. Yeah, in Indonesia, the Financial Services Authority for Sustainability Reporting is also listed or mentioned or articulated in the Long-Term Development Plan (RPJP) 2005 to 2025 for greener and sustainable Indonesia, and then it is also in the Master Plan for Indonesia financial service sectors. So these are the development. There is an update for the OJK, details on how to report in 2021 release. So if any of you following the OJK, I think you are aware of the SAOJK. Now, in the overview of OJK regulation, actually what we need to identify is it is annually. So if you follow certain framework, they don't ask you to have annually. You can also have biannually. But if you follow OJK, then it is a annual report. And these are what's inside. What do you need to disclose? Explanation of sustainability strategy. So what is actually a sustainability strategy? Yeah, it is actually not separate from your operational strategy or your company vision or company strategy. It should be combined. If somebody do a sustainability strategy, but it is like, okay, this is sustainability, this is actually our company policy, you will never meet the end correctly. So it should be integrated into the operation. So you have to talk to your operation. What is our strategy? Where do we want to go? We have a target for zero emission in 2050, for example. What do we need to do? And then the board of director of sustainable governance has to be involved. Yeah, the the best way that I've seen so far, yeah, is actually integrating finance with sustainability, because that's where the money is, right? You want to fund things, that's where sustainability should be aligned with operation also, and the finance. In the in the POJK requirement of sustainability report, you have to explain your sustainability performance by the quantity. Yeah, so how much water recycled, for example, energy use, energy reduction, emission reduction, and so on and so on. So there's also a verification from independent parties, if any. It is optional, and you have to have a feedback sheet for the readers. Yeah. There's also response from LJK, issuers, and public company feedback to previous year's report. So if you have an improvement, you have to improve it from there. So this is the overview of the what's inside the OJK, how we do the sustainability reporting. Now, when we do the sustainability reporting, sometimes or many times we will receive a rating, yeah, from the third party organization, financial analyst, for example. So in the these are some the reporting frameworks that you can follow, and the ratings will follow on whatever your disclosure. So, for example, if you're following GRI Sustainability Reporting Framework or the SASB or the TCFD, what's inside there is just a disclosure of whatever your activity. Now, the ratings will define you. For example, do you have a measurement? Oh, yes, you have. Okay, you got some points from their end. Do you have policy? Okay, you got some points from there. Do you have a monitoring and evaluation? You got some points in there as well. So you have to disclose what kind of approach that you do to handle your in your report. But sometimes you don't have that anywhere in your report. For example, you don't have any disclosures. You don't have anything. Let's say the question that sometimes appear is, do you have any non-compliance related to the environment or the economic, for example? Do you have any sanctions? Let's say you don't have anything. Yeah, don't have any this year. We don't have any sanctions. We don't have any non-compliance. All good. And then you think that because you're all good, then you don't report anything. So it's wrong. So you have to disclose. This year, we don't have any non-compliance. For example, if corruption is an issue in your company, for example, is a material topic, then if there's no case that year, you have to say like, this year there is no corruption identified or any significantly identified, for example. And then you have to explain like, because we do trainings, we do evaluation, we do internal audits, we do blah, blah, blah. So that's why this year we don't have any cases. So you have to be very explicit about those kind of things. Otherwise, if you don't say anything, they will think like, oh, maybe you're hiding something. Maybe there's something happened, but you don't disclose it. That is possible like that. So similarly with all of the topics. Later I will show what kind of topics are relevant for sustainability. Yeah. So this is an example for the GRI standard. In the GRI standard, why do I explain about the GRI standard? Because this is the most comprehensive one. Yeah, it covers everything, and then we can choose and select which one is material. First of all, you have to follow the principles of the reporting. Yeah, for example, it has to be accurate, reliable, transparent, timeliness, yeah, clear. Yeah, because sometimes when you read a sustainability report or you read the website or something, you read and then you don't understand. Yeah. Sometimes when you read and you don't understand, you feel the first feeling, oh, maybe I'm the one who don't understand. Maybe the other party, the rest of the world understand, but it's me. I'm not smart enough to understand this. Yeah, sometimes it's like that. But actually, Bapak Ibu, if you don't understand, the rest of the peers don't understand it as well. So if you are involved in your reporting, if somebody is writing for you and they write something that you don't understand, you have to say like, change this because I don't understand what is this about. Okay, so it's very important to be clear and transparent. Now, in the standards, in the sustainability reporting, in all kinds of sustainability reporting, actually, the first thing you need to disclose is about who you are. Who is your organization? What do you do? How big are you? Where are you located? Those kind of things are your company profile. Yeah. After the company profile, you identify what is material topic for the company or for the industry. If you are in the manufacturing industry, for example, then what is material? Is it about energy efficiency and productivity is material? If you use a lot of water, then water is important. If you have a lot of employees, then training and development is also important, for example. So you need to understand what is material. Once you know that is the topic that we want to disclose, then you go to the specific disclosures. What needs to be disclosed on that topic? Yeah, there are also sector standards available. So this is what I mentioned about company profile. Who is the organization? How many are you? What do you do? What is the governance? How is the governance? What is the strategy, policy, practices, and whether you engage your stakeholders or not? Yeah, one of the memory that I still remember up to now about activities, yeah, I don't think it's any of you is here, yeah, from Perusahaan Gas Negara (PGN). I remember it was one of the first early years I did sustainability reporting, and then their activities, yeah. Perusahaan Gas Negara, when you think about it, maybe some of you already know, you think they sell gas. Correct? You think they sell gas. They don't. They don't sell gas. They distribute the gas. They have the pipes. So the gas is not their business. The pipes are their business. If we are upset because there's no pipelines goes in front of our house, that's their business. Yeah. So at that time in my early days, I just wonder, so they don't sell gas. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. So many of you also have specific business. Yeah. Maybe people don't understand what is your business about. So you need to explain that. What is the activities? What do you do? And so on and so on. Okay. So this is a good profile. If you're doing a company profile or whatever, this is a good entrance to understanding who you are. Now, the second part is to, after the who you are, management of material topics. What is the material topics? Yeah, how do we determine the material topics? We have to identify the impact. That is what the first one. What is your impact? Positive and negative. Yeah. And then who is your stakeholder? So many times when we identify our material topics, the easiest way to identify is by having a questionnaire. Have a variety of topics, and then you ask your stakeholders, your peers, do you think this is relevant for our business or not? Yeah. For example, if you are manufacturing textile, yeah, making a garment, textile, all the dyeing process and everything, and then you ask your peers, is energy important for you or not regarding our company? Is water important or not? Is chemical management important or not? Is the safety of the employee important or not? Those kind of things we have to ask to our internal stakeholders, our company, and also our external, our buyer, our supplier, government, association, everybody, we ask the same question, the same topic. So we can identify, oh, turn out this is their focus, this is their problem. Maybe for textile, oh, I don't want to use chemical, or maybe less chemical, because when we use chemical, then when I wear the fabric, then I feel itchy, for example. Yeah, so that's impact stakeholder. And then due diligence. Why due diligence is here? Yeah, because we have impact, good impact, stakeholder already covered. But then turn out we got a love letter from the agency, environmental agency. Yeah, our whatever emission is way beyond the requirement. So due diligence is important. We had a case during proper, I remember. This company already almost got gold or green, and then suddenly they got the love letter. So okay, all efforts are gone because of due diligence. Okay. So in the material topic, we need to identify, we need to disclose how do we come up with the material topic. Yeah, how do we come up with it? Is it a survey or is it from the sky? Suddenly I have one seat and I say, okay, I just write it down. Okay, so we have to identify. And whether the management actually approves the material topic is an issue for the company or the sector. Yeah, and then we list down the material topic and then we manage the material topic. So in our approach in LCI, in Life Cycle Indonesia, when we focus on measurement of impact through life cycle assessment, because through life cycle assessment we can specifically quantify what is the impact, yeah, and what is the hotspot, where is the hotspot, what does it mean by the hotspot, where is the biggest impact, processes that cause the biggest impact, or entities or stages, life stages that cause the biggest impact. And then we try to improve it through resource efficiency, cleaner production, environmental management, and everything. Those are the effort. Yeah. For example, and then after that, then we communicate. So measure, manage, communicate. If we, after we communicate, we identify, oh, we are missing A, B, C, D. Okay, those A, B, C, D will be your evaluation for next year reporting. Maybe you need to collect some data, yeah, for your reporting. So data, what do? Communicate, and then again you do all continuously, continuous improvement. Just a bit of quantifying impact with life cycle assessment. All of the quantification is based on whatever going in and out of the system throughout the life cycle, and then we calculate the environmental impact. For example, what is environmental impact? Yeah, why Bu Jessica keep on saying environmental impact? We have methane, for example, we have CO2, we have other gases. Those gases contributes to greenhouse gas or global warming potential. So the global warming potential is the impact, but the inventory or the item that contributes the impact is the input and output. So for example, when I say like, oh, I don't want my batik here maybe using certain chemicals. That chemicals cause me some rash, for example. Yeah, then that chemicals is the inventory, the input and output. The rash is the impact. Maybe I have some sensitivity. In another explanation in here, for example, if the smoke emission particulate matter, yeah, is high, sometimes we got cough. Yeah, when we cough, we got sick, respiratory problem. Bapak jadi cough. Respiratory problem. When you have the respiratory problem, you have human health impact. Yeah, similarly with human toxicity, freshwater eutrophication in here, water pollution basically. When we have water pollution, emission thrown away to the water, to the river, the fish cannot live in that water and then they die. So that's impact. Now, these are the GRI topics that are usually disclosed. Yeah, you don't have to disclose everything. Yeah, you don't have to disclose everything. You disclose what is important to you, what is material to you. Yeah, in the economic environment, in social, all of these, let's say we select 10 disclosures based on the material topic. Then from that material topic, there are some requirements inside the GRI or inside the all of the rating framework, like for example in the training education, how many hours per year that you have trainings and education for your employees, for male and female. Yeah, how many training programs do you have? That one have to be disclosed. Yeah, what kind of is there any trainings for leadership training, for example? That one also have in here. So there are more details in the JARA topics. You are welcome to ask later on if you feel the need. Yeah. Now, once we have the disclosures, the rating agencies or the analysts will look at whether you have a comprehensive, transparent disclosures, well, likely to have higher ratings. What is your performance? Whether you improve or you are, what do you call it? Decrease improvement. Yeah. Or how is it between you and the peers? They will compare you peer to peer. Who is better? Yeah, and once they have this comprehensive performance disclosure, then they will provide a ratings that give investors confidence and can have a mitigation or risk identification. Let's say one company, they are not doing well. They have, they pollute, for example. So maybe the investors will say like, this company is no good. So don't invest in there. So as an investor, they will try, similar to financial investment. If this company is not good, then they will not invest in there. So in here as well. If the company feels like they are not taking care of the environment, then they will not invest in there. So there are many ESG rating agencies currently play a role in providing insights to the investors. For example, MSCI, Sustainalytics, and Bloomberg's. These companies will give you ratings. So that's why if these are your investors, your investors are looking at these ratings, you might want to look at what are the details that they are looking for. Yeah, some methodology behind the ESG rating so we can understand how they think, so we can disclose better. So the data, yeah, they gather the ESG data all from public disclosures, Bapak Ibu. Yeah, from public disclosures. So if it's not on your website, it is not in your sustainability reports, it's not in your AR or anywhere in your public communication, then they will think you don't have anything. Yeah, so that's why it's important for us when we do the sustainability reporting, we collect the data as much as we could. Yeah, collect as much as we could, and then we try to sort out which one is good enough for us to disclose. Bear in mind the risk and opportunity, because you don't want to reveal some secret, confidential items for your company that will jeopardize your company. Yeah, so this is a tricky question. So that's why you have to understand first the whole situation and see, sort out which one will benefit you or which one will will not benefit you. It's about risk and opportunity. Sometimes some companies they know it's a disclosure requirement, but they don't want to disclose it because they know if they disclose it, then it will hurt them more rather than improve them. So you have to be careful to understand which one needs to be disclosed and not. And then there's also weighting from the ESG rating, the scoring system. They have a scoring system, industry benchmark as well, and then of course a continuous review. So the ESG ratings are important for these people, these stakeholders. So when you have your stakeholder engagement, yeah, you ask them, yeah, hey, actually, what do you need? What information do you need? If they are asking certain question, you put it out in your sustainability report because that will be relevant for their decisions. So that's why it's important to engage the stakeholders. Yeah, there are all kinds of challenges and limitations. Data quality, there's always a problem with data quality. Yeah. The data keep on changing. Somebody put extra zeros. Somebody missed the comma and the period, and so on. Lack of standardization and the scope of coverage. And best practices for ESG disclosures is try to align as much as you could to the reporting framework. Assess your materiality. Verify your data. Make sure you don't miss your data. Transparency, clarity, and continuous improvement. Before I proceed, maybe you have any question? After this, we have this one already. I have a video, but maybe any question first, Bapak Ibu? Just a super brief on sustainability reporting. There are trainings on specific sustainable reports that cannot be covered in 1 hour. If not, to help you, that we have this, we call it ECSR. This is a platform that we developed to help companies. It's a DIY, do-it-yourself reporting. If you have many disclosures and you're not sure which one that you want to do, then you can use this platform to help you write, to help you focus, and then you can use this as well to help you collect data. Yeah, this is a collaboration platform, so you can invite many divisions or departments from your companies, and they can fill in, like let's say the HR fill in the HR information, and the other can fill in according to their division. You can scan that if you want to test or to have a trial on sustainability ECSR. And then I think that's it. If you have any question, I'm welcome to answer your question, Bapak Ibu. Mungkin ada satu kali ya, klik lagi ya. Ada at the end ya. Thank you. Yes. Maybe. Yes, silakan Ibu.
Saya masih awam sama sustainable reporting. Oke. Terima kasih atas presentasinya dan kesempatan untuk bertanya. Nama saya Devita. Sekarang saya bekerja di German company JZ. Sebelumnya saya bekerja di perusahaan swasta yang lumayan besar. Jadi bukan saya mengerjakan sustainable report. Dan sekarang saya juga membantu perusahaan startup ya, tapi itu di bidang service. Nah, yang ingin saya tanyakan, apakah sustainability reporting ini tendensinya akan mandatory ke depannya, dan juga Tadi yang di bagian GRI itu ada material ya, yang ditekankan pada material. Bagaimana untuk perusahaan yang bergerak di bidangnya service gitu. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih untuk pertanyaannya. Bahasa Indonesia apa? Jawabannya bahasa Inggris juga? Bebas, oke. Jadi kalau untuk perusahaan-perusahaan lain yang non-publicly listed, sebenarnya belum ada requirement apakah akan menjadi requirement atau tidak. Tapi kalau misalnya kita melihat tren di Eropa, itu sekarang mereka turun ke non-publicly listed company. Jadi mereka lagi bingung nih sekarang company-company, kalau nggak salah mereka ada berapa nilai omsetnya, level berapa, nah itu harus reporting juga even though they are not publicly listed. So maybe it's always good to prepare, B2B prepared gitu ya, at least mulai ngumpulin data apa saja yang kira-kira diperlukan. Untuk materiality-nya, kita can always go through tadi kita punya list of economic, environmental, social. Nah, kita bisa edarin tuh misalnya kuesioner ke stakeholders. What do you think is relevant for this service industry? So, sustainable reporting not limited to product goods, but also to services juga. What kind of service ya Bu kalau boleh tahu? Konsultansi, oke. Konsultansi itu
channeling fund jadi
Okay. So consultancy and channeling fund tuh actually similar to banking, because when you look at financial institution and you ask, okay, what is the environmental impact, what is the energy, and then they will say like, oh, listrik di kantor is very insignificant. It's very insignificant. So for the banks and financial institution or consultancy, actually their impact is in the people that they provide the money, the loan, or the one that they help. For example, those are the one that you highlight. So for example, for financial sector, where does the money goes to? Does the money goes to some extractive business, for example, yang merusak lingkungan, or actually helping the environment, for example. But when it's you say like, okay, this will improve the environmental performance of the client, how much? Let's say you have, that's why when we talk about investment, okay, you have $1 million, for example. This $1 million will be used for what? For building schools. And then we can say like, okay, building school, how much ya? Or you can have like some energy reduction, emission reduction activity or equipment, then how much is it? So we have to quantify what is the actual impact. That's why when I begin my presentation is about the impact. So through that money, what is the impact? Through your in consultancy, what is the impact? Hopefully that can help. Maybe I only have 3 minutes, but I have the video, yeah. Maybe last one question. Any question? If no more question, maybe I would end this session. So before ending the today's event, we have a short video from the Jakarta Investment Forum. Go ahead.
As we conclude Jakarta Investment Forum 2023, I welcome you for a bigger collaboration to foster Jakarta in becoming global city and beyond. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
We have introduced our investment opportunity, facilitated one-on-one meeting between the project owner and potential investors, as well as ignited discussion with the experts and policymakers through Jakarta Investment Forum 2023. We hope that you could join us in transforming Jakarta to be a better city for all. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
3, 2, 1.
On behalf of the Jakarta Provincial Government, I convey my deepest gratitude to all distinguished speakers, investors, business entities, and guests for participating in Jakarta Investment Forum 2023. It's a great honor for us to meet global business leaders in encouraging stronger global cities for the prosperity of the people. Let's come and collaborate with Jakarta. See you at the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
See you at the next Jakarta Investment Forum.
Saya challenge-nya adalah the bridges, all the LRTs, ya, how impactful is it? Ya, if we can cut time, how much the revenue or the income that we can generate from that. So last but not least, we have reached the end of the event. Before we ended the workshop, let's have a photo session together. I will join you there. And thank you so much, and apology if any wrong. Last one. Pak, silakan.
One of the industrial estate located in Jakarta. I have one simple question for you. What is the difference between sustainability report and the proper? As we know, our minister, environmental minister, make it proper as an annual report for the companies in Indonesia. Maybe you can.
The
answer me with
content
this.
is similar, Pak, but proper is not publicly available. The sustainability report is publicly available. So you can use the information that you have in the proper to put it in the sustainability report so it can be accessed by the public. Maybe that's the most important difference.
Okay. So, what is the added value of it?
The sustainability report?
Yes.
It will increase definitely the trust from your peers, from your stakeholders and your capital providers about your performance, because at the moment, let's say, proper is a kind of rating system, yeah, that will give you, okay, this company is gold or this company is green, but we don't have a publicly available information about the performance, yeah, the detailed performance. While in the sustainability report, you can open it and you can see, and then even benchmark between different companies about their performance. So based on our experience, you can use the one in the proper, and then maybe you can sort out which one is suitable for the public communication.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So I will join you. Terima kasih banyak.